Before we dive in, if you enjoy what you hear, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a tale. Like, share, and invite others to join us in the shadows, because fear is always better when it's shared. This story was first posted at creepypasta.org by user K.E. Moore. Title, Pills Part 4. My heart slammed against my chest. Somewhere I felt ashamed. We were down here, in the heart of fear, and I was thinking about my dick. How pathetic. Besides, I knew that wasn't what she was asking for. She wanted to feel safe. I could understand that. I wanted to feel safe too. Without forcing her to finish the question, I nodded. I felt her slip her small, slender hand in my own, and we went to bed. Why am I putting this in here? Some might say it isn't important. When you are done reading, maybe you won't think so. I don't know, but it seems to me, after seeing everything that I've seen, survival isn't enough. Even in the face of the end of the world, in the face of evils not yet imagined, maybe, just maybe, love is important. When you are done reading this, remember, it's important. Sleeping on the floor of Amy's cell wasn't as bad as you might think. Remember, I've slept on worse things than a soft carpet with a decent blanket and a fluffy pillow. We chatted for a while in the dark. Nothing about the compound or the experiment, but instead, silly things, dreams and impossibilities. What we wanted to do when we got out of here. She wanted to go to Europe. I just wanted to find a job and buy a little house, somewhere out of the city and away from all the concrete and sirens. Sleep came. I'm not sure when it happened, or where we were in our conversation. It just happened, as it often does. What I do remember is that the lights were still off until the screams filled our ears and shocked us awake. What the hell? Amy hissed. Billy, I barked. Her shins connected with my spine before I felt her hands reach for me and help pick me up off of the floor. Hand in hand we left her cell and entered the main hallway. It was filled with the sound of Billy's terror and the footsteps of the remaining subjects. In the opaque blackness I could hear Alphonse say, "No, man. That's Billy. What the fuck?" There was crying too. At first I thought it was Amy, but it was too far away. That's when I realized it must have been Carly. All of a sudden the screams grew louder, punctuated by the sound of a door swinging open and slamming shut. Footsteps accompanied the wailing as the cacophony grew nearer. "Billy!" I cried. "Billy, what's going on? Are you okay?" Somewhere close by, I could hear Billy's voice. He had gone beyond fear, beyond panic. "They aren't what they say they are," he said, his voice on the verge of cracking. "Don't trust them." "What the hell do you mean?" I asked. I felt sick. I felt like I wanted to vomit, to purge the darkness from within, but the warmth of Amy's hand bolstered me, forced me to keep my composure. Billy began, but there was another sound of footsteps in the corridor with us, strange, alien. They clacked and hushed, a sound completely different from the soft pats of our crepe soles. It was what I imagined a lizard would sound like, all scales and talons. Billy screamed louder, and I could hear him, feel him almost, as he ran further down the hall, the strange clacking footsteps galloping after him. "We gotta do something," Alphonse murmured. I listened as Frank scoffed. "Yeah, like what?" "Man, fuck you, Frank. You a piece of shit." Amid the screams I heard another set of footsteps, longer, belonging to someone tall and in decent shape. Alphonse's. The remaining four of us waited, unable to see, only to listen to the noises as they grew further away. I don't believe in God. I think when I lost my job and was thrust out onto the streets, I lost my faith. Nevertheless, amid the diminishing sounds of screams and footsteps I started praying. I'm not sure what I was praying for, or who I was praying to. In truth, I think I was just asking someone to make all of this stop. And it did stop, for a moment at least. There was silence, the kind of silence that is almost thick enough to reach out and touch, the kind of silence that buzzes in your ear. I had just started to convince myself that everything was going to be okay when I heard Billy scream louder than ever before. Abruptly, the scream died, replaced by a whispered gurgling noise that filled the corridor with dread. "Oh no, you fucking don't," we heard Alphonse shout. I allowed myself to feel hope at this new development, but then I heard Alphonse's voice change in pitch, high and shrill and filled with horror. "No," he cried. "No no 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 no." We waited for his scream, knowing it would come. It never did. There was just silence. The four of us waited in the corridor, Amy now pressed into my side and shivering. We waited for something, anything, but minutes passed, maybe hours, and all we were met with was continued, thick, pregnant silence. I don't know how much time passed, but eventually I heard Frank's trademark grunt before he sneered, "I'm going back to bed." When no one wished him good night, he added, "See ya for breakfast. If you make it." Carly, sniffing, padded away, leaving myself and Amy alone in the hallway. She trembled against my body, and my free hand sought for her shoulder to comfort her. I could feel her shake her head against my chest. "Let's just go to bed, okay?" I nodded. Realizing she couldn't see this, I added, "Yeah. Okay." I went to take my position, lying on the ground, when she called my name. "Can you come up here, please?" Under any other conditions, I might have been aroused. But the both of us were too scared, too traumatized by what we heard. I crawled into the bed with her, amazed by how small, how thin and vulnerable she felt as she burrowed against me. We didn't talk, as though words would bring the horrors we just experienced back to life. Instead, we just lay there, feeling each other's breath, each other's pulse, taking whatever comfort we could in knowing that both of us were alive. Somehow we both fell asleep. I awoke to see Amy standing in her coveralls and staring at the edge of her desk. I hoisted myself up onto my elbow and asked, "Amy? What's wrong?" When she turned, her eyes were red and wide with fright. Then, stepping aside, she revealed that her desk was bare. "They didn't give me a pill," she said, her voice hollow. I flew to her, my hands cupping her face. "It's okay. Hey, look, this is me, right? It's okay. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. No, please don't cry. Amy, sweetheart, don't." She turned away, her face streaked with tears, her jaw clenched. "You should check to see if your pill came," she said coldly. "Only if you come with me," I said softly. She folded her arms across her chest, and for a moment I thought she would refuse, but without looking at me she curtly nodded her head. We navigated the stark white halls back to my cell. It was funny how barren it looked, with the bed stripped down to the mattress. There was a clean pair of coveralls folded neatly on my chair, and I wondered how long they had been there. I hadn't stayed here in 2 nights in a row now. These details melted, however, as both Amy and I looked to the corner of my desk. There, in the same kind of plastic cup that comes with cough syrup, was a little white pill the size and shape of a tic-tac. "You take it," I said, and I meant it. Amy scowled at me. "Fuck you," she spat. "Fuck me?" I asked, incredulous. "What the hell do you mean? Take the pill." "No," she shouted. "I don't want what happened to Pedro and Billy to happen to you." I shouted back. "You think I want that to happen to you?" she said. Her voice had dropped from a shout into something of a plea as her eyes, pink and bloodshot, swam in a pool of embryonic tears. "Amy, I don't." I began to protest, but Amy held up a hand and picked the cup up with her other hand. Even in her fear and sadness, she was so pretty. Even as she brought the cup to my lips with fingers of bone china and eyes I could disappear into, I was helpless to her will. My mouth opened. She tipped the pill onto my tongue. I swallowed. I could feel myself crying even as the strange, medicinal pressure of the pill worked its way down my esophagus. Through tears she smiled at me, and kissed my lips, the tender touch like a whisper. We walked hand in hand to the cafeteria where Frank and Carly were already eating. Well, Frank was eating. Carly was crying softly as she stared into a bowl of oatmeal. Frank met our questioning looks. No pill, he said in explanation as he hooked a thumb in Carly's direction. You're an asshole, Frank, Amy snapped. Yeah, but I'm a living asshole, he retorted. Carly continued to stir her oatmeal. Amy and I shared a look. Both of us wanted to say something to comfort the aging woman, but what could we say? Everyone who was not given a pill so far had disappeared, except Frank. From beneath her mass of wiry red hair, Carly hissed, I can't do this no more. Carly, I tried, but she slammed her spoon into the bowl and chunks of oatmeal sprayed outward in a dull, grayish-brown fountain. They're killing us, she barked. What the hell you think they chose us for? Huh? Because we're healthy? Because we're the right age group? No, they picked us because no one gives a shit if a few beggars on the street go missing. No one's gonna notice. There's no family to tell. Her words rang through the cafeteria, harsh and cold and true. In their wake, she looked down and in a whisper she shuddered, we're all so stupid. Amy and I both gaped at her, our jaws unhinged. Only Frank kept eating, unperturbed. Slowly, Carly shook her head. I'm done with this experiment, she declared. Carly deliberately rose and pushed the tray away from her. With her jaw stuck out, she defiantly strode to the door of the cafeteria. Amy and I glanced at each other before we quickly scuttled after her. Behind me I could hear Frank chuckling sardonically, and in that moment, I hated him more than I had hated any other person I had ever met. We followed Carly's compact frame and thick, unkempt, ginger braid as she twisted and snaked through the labyrinth of white halls. It soon became apparent that she was heading for the control room we entered at the beginning of the trial. At the end of a long corridor were a pair of white double doors set in the far wall. Carly marched towards them, arms swinging defiantly. Beside me, I could sense Amy's pink hair and her trepidation as Carly reached the doors. She started pounding. You open up, she ordered. You open up, you sons of bitches, and you let me out. Carly, I heard Amy call after her. Carly, sweetie, come with us, okay? Amy's words rang hollow and unanswered. You let me the fuck out of this thing right now, Carly demanded. I'm not going to sit down here and let you fucks murder me. You let me out right goddamn now. Carly kept wailing at the doors. When her fists didn't force them open, she started kicking at them. I reached for her shoulder and thought better of it, unwilling to test the tempest of her rage. She screamed at the doors over and over again until the corridor flooded with a calm, soothing voice. It was Dr. Brune. The subject will cease her assault on the control room door immediately. Or what, you fucking cunt? Carly shouted. Her face was upturned, as though the voice came from the ceiling. Or what? You tell me, you goddamn bitch. Carly went back to attacking the double doors. The subject will refrain from accosting the control room doors. Failure to do so will result in pacification by security forces, Dr. Brune's voice said in a cool, unimpassioned voice. Fuck you, Carly bellowed. Her voice was hoarse and raspy. Go fuck yourself, you stupid whore, she railed. Now she was trying to dig her fingers into the hairline fracture between the doors. Deploying security measures now, Dr. Brune informed us. The double doors flew open. That's better, we heard Carly say before the darkness beyond was filled with 4 figures in white coveralls like ours. At least they seemed like ours at first glance, but they were bulkier, with some sort of body armor sewn into the fabric. They wore helmets and black, opaque visors. They were followed by Dr. Vorhauer and Dr. Bell. Both men were smiling easily, the same smiles they wore on the day we arrived. In Vorhauer's right hand he held a syringe. Its contents were thick and black and dirty somehow, reminding me of motor oil. Vorhauer's smile did not reach his eyes as he fixed his gaze upon Carly. She lunged at the 2 doctors, a throaty, primal cry pealing through the white halls. Before she could reach them, the men in helmets and armor converged upon her, holding her in place. Dr. Bell spoke. I am going to ask you once to please return to your normal activities. We have been pleased with the results of this experiment up to this point, and beseech you to continue your exemplary work." He showed no emotion, no reaction to the raging woman before him. "Fuck you. You let me go right fucking now." Carly spat as she struggled against her captors. Dr. Bell's smile didn't twitch as he held a motion towards the syringe in Vorhauer's hand. "Do you happen to know what this is? I am assuming you don't. It is a chemical cocktail, phenytoin and pentobarbital sodium salts. It is the same solution used for euthanizing household pets." "Let me go," Carly insisted.